You still see the picture? This is what I saw when I was a little girl. I cry every time I see this. I took the pictures.
So well with your story.
That's her daydreaming. That's the potbelly stove everyone sat around. Applying for the American citizenship. Becoming an American.
Thank you, Bev. Thank you so much. That really was lovely.
What a nice tribute. And what hard work, my gosh.
2 days I did it in.
Wow.
I worked night and day.
And your grandparents, such hard work with that full service.
Yeah. You know, I grew up there, you know, and I always had my camera handy, and I had my own, those black and whites. I had my own darkroom. I developed them myself.
Wow.
Yes.
Thank
I
you.
cry every time I see them. I'm sorry, I get so emotional because I really do miss them. You know, I lived with them for many years, you know, with my parents that they lived downstairs.
What was your grandfather's name? Her name is Rosa.
Meyer Shearer and Rose Shearer are their names. And they had my mother, my aunt, and my uncle. And in the picture of in the beginning was my mother as a little girl and my aunt. And she's the one who started the tradition. There's always room for one more.
Oh.
So I'm going to ask Meg if she has announcements, and then I have a few announcements after her too.
Okay. Actually, I don't have too much. I just want to remind everybody that the genre storytelling will be on the 21st of this month, and it's sacred and inspirational stories. Genevieve, were you doing a story for that?
Vicky Ness.
Oh, Vicky. I'm sorry. I get you guys. Sometimes I'm thinking it's one and then it's the other. So yes. Okay. So Vicky will be doing one, which always is a treat, you guys. So go ahead and take a look into that. But other than that, I didn't really run across anything. If you are interested in some of the other Zoom sessions with the swaps around the state, Northern California in particular, you can go, of course, onto the SAC website and find out all about when they meet and how to get onto their Zooms, because I think Sacramento is doing in-person and Zoom. They're doing a hybrid. And so there are opportunities to really listen to stories. And I have to say that December is one of my favorite times for stories, because there's just they're mostly inspirational and some are sacred, and it's just and yet some are funny, like what Dee told. So it's a great time to just kind of not pay attention to the weather or the dark, and just enjoy. So that's
When
what we've
in-
got.
When in January are you doing your next Zoom? This group?
It is always the second Tuesday of the month, Bev. Bev, had you been getting emails? Because
No.
I went in and redid our membership list just
I'm-
recently.
I
And I
have a
thought,
team
I
membership.
hadn't seen you. And I thought, well, did I mess up your email? Which I probably did. And I
Yes.
apologize for that. So I was really happy to see you here today.
I'm gonna put my email in. I have a 2-year membership in California. I joined. And
Oh,
I haven't
wonderful.
I'm not getting anything from them yet,
Hmm.
even for the national New Year's. I mean, I'm not getting anything from anyone. It's just, I remember, for some reason, I got one email and I'm going, geez, I haven't heard from this group in a long time. I haven't heard from anybody in California.
Oh,
I don't know
well, I
what's
do apologize. I don't know where because I know I think for a while there, I was sending them individually to you because just having to need to update. And then I did update, and I don't know what was the wrong email. I
did
think I
the-
misspelled something. So I apologize for that. And I'm so glad you came back tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I put my email for you in the thing. I don't know if you need anything else.
In the chat.
You also got an email saying that your dues are due, but I paid for just this year for 2 years. So
That
I don't
is
think they
SAC,
know that I'm.
That would be for SAC, not for the Do Tell Story Swap.
No,
Right.
but this, for all of California.
Mhm. That would be
So
SAC.
It would be SAC,
right.
it's not the swap. And our next January swap is on the 10th. It's the
It's on the
second.
10th. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll put it on my calendar now.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, but you have my email now.
Yep.
Okay. You need
Looks like we're
anything-
good.
You need anything else?
No, and if you need to contact SAC, go on to their website. They do have a way of, getting
Yeah.
in touch with their folks. And so if you have some confusion or problem, just go ahead and go directly to the SAC website and communicate with them through there. And
What is
I've
that?
always found them.
What-
It's
what is
it's the website is Story SAC, STORYSAAC. And I think it's a .com. Anybody know? Is it .com?
If you just go onto their website, I mean, you just put in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Association
Storytelling
California.
Association of California.
Yeah,
Get-
that gets you there. Thanks, Vicky. That's the easiest way.
Yeah.
Rather, yeah.
Just Google it.
Yeah. And
Storytelling Association of California.
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay, I will do that because I'm not getting anything from them and I know I'm a member. I paid, so, I'm
Yeah.
not-
They haven't sent too many emails lately, but we did get one in the last couple of weeks, so.
Yeah.
we'll follow up.
So I was
And-
gonna send it out or something.
Meg, do you have any more announcements?
Nope, that'll do it.
So I'm just going to hop on to the genre stories because Vicky is this month. Next month is Tall Tales. February is Stories of Love. Genevieve, you might be interested in that.
How did
Art
you
is-
know?
Myths and Fables. April, Historical Stories. May, Legends. And June is Fairy Tales. So all you have to do is either contact Meg or myself, and then we put your name forward. So it's really
I have a
simple.
fairy tale that Susan Bucco and I have been working on since this past February, believe it or not. And we're going to premiere it December 23rd in Toronto. So I'm not sure. I think somebody put me on something for fairy tales. I think Liz in June. I'm not sure if I was representing their group. I'm not sure.
No.
No, if I would appreciate
us.
trying to come that in June to tell that story. We've
Liz
worked really-
Nichols.
Yeah, Liz Nichols group has me on. I have it on my table somewhere that I'm scheduled to go June something to tell its fairy tale.
You know what? I would contact her and ask her if she's already nominated you. That's Liz Nichols.
Yeah, I think she nominated me for that from her group.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. But
Okay.
so it has nothing to do then with this group.
Oh, okay, that's what I'm asking, because I would like to do the fairy tale for you too. I don't just, what's your date?
But-
There.
But I was just talking about genre stories, but if you are if you're already been nominated by Liz Nichols, then you're in. And
Oh, okay, I get it. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, she's putting me in that for the June.
Yeah.
Okay,
Good. Okay,
Right.
so then just to let you know, Brandon is a meeting tonight, so he can't be with us. And then on January, he is, I think, on a trip with some students. So he, again, won't be with us, but we will just carry on without him. Elaine can't be here tonight. She has been sick, but she's on the mend and hopes to be with us next month. So we all send her good wishes. All right, so now we are back to our stories. Genevieve, would you like to tell us your story? And then we should all go ahead and mute ourselves, and me included.
Okay, I'm just gonna pull this together just out of that space. Yesterday was the feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe. Our Lady of Guadalupe, for Mexicans far and wide, is known as the Empress of Mexico. She is deeply adored and worshipped by millions of people, and her shrine, her basilica in Mexico City, is the second most visited Catholic shrine in the world, surpassed only by St. Peter's Basilica in Italy, which is visited by people of all religions. But this image and the story of the image has inspired a deep faith and innocent love and trust in her from people of all stages. On Sunday before her actual feast day, the chapel where I normally go decided that we would be holding a commemorative feast, or what they call a forefeast, since it wasn't actually on the 12th, but on the 11th. And we were going to bless a retablo, which is a flat wooden carving image that had been commissioned of Our Lady of Guadalupe by the previous chaplain before she left. The new chaplain decided he wanted to consecrate it, and I and a friend of mine who had wanted to include the Hispanic community into that particular beautiful place of worship worked very, very hard to create a bilingual service. I translated the liturgy, I chose the songs and translated them into English, including some of the rhymes. And I also orchestrated the actual ceremony, the different elements, besides the basic core, which would be a standard Episcopalian, in this case, Mass. We didn't know if there were going to be 4 or 14 people who would come. We had no idea. My friend Greta was wonderful in inviting the Hispanic community that she knew to come and spend this time in the presence of this Madonna that they worship so both deeply and innocently. To my surprise, the very, very rainy weather that had made it somewhat difficult for me to get there the evening before, where I worked to prepare with my friend until nearly midnight, on the following day led up just as I pulled out of the house to head up to Healdsburg, which was wonderful. When I got there, I rushed around doing a few things, and I began to see some of the Latino community invitees saunter up. We filled the chapel. There were 50 people there, where normally there are 5 to 15, because it's a very small place. And one of the things that I had been struggling with was the fact that the story of Our Lady of Guadalupe, as I heard it, was a miracle. And many people believe in the miracle. When I got older, with a little bit more discernment and perhaps a little bit more skepticism, I discovered that in fact, the story is probably not exactly true, that the image was painted quite a long time before the story takes place, and that in fact, the Catholic powers that be saw this as an opportunity to replace what had been the native people's image of the female goddess Tonantzin with a Catholic image. and hence get them to convert to Catholicism and not feel that they were abandoning their goddess. In their minds, they weren't really doing a switch out. It was simply a different version of the same thing. In the priest's image, it was a full switch altogether. I also felt that over the years, this image has been used to somewhat ingrain certain beliefs and certain fears of transgression into the communities. But the communities, in their genuine love and affection, have turned that on its head, because they simply see her as a place to put all their grief, all their suffering, all their devotion, their hopes. And in the image, they find them totally received, like a mother with a child who simply trusts on her shoulder. But as I was struggling with the political correctness of what I was doing, creating this ceremony that some people were calling idolatrous, my friend turned to me and said, you know, I'm a teacher and I teach very little children. I'm very lucky to do that because they always show me so much. And she continued with her story. She said, one day, somebody, a fellow teacher, gave me a pair of socks. And on the side of the socks was the image of Our Lady of Guadalupe, because she's everywhere, you know. And I had left them on my desk and kind of forgotten about them that day or that morning until the recess bell rang. She said, in my school, recess is pandemonium, chaos, and playing with wild abandon. The kids rush out and make the most of their little bit of free time. But I noticed when I was out in the schoolyard that some of the children were missing. So I walked back into my classroom and they were at my desk, gazing at my socks and praying to Our Lady of Guadalupe.
That you just tell the most beautiful stories. They're just so from your heart, and they're just, they always tell us something new too.
Thank you.
And
It filled my heart. Just when she told that story, I thought, I don't have to worry about anything anymore.
yeah,
Just look with the eyes of a child.
yes. So thank you. This is something that we can remember, not only for this evening, but carrying ourselves through. Thank you, Genevieve. Okay, why don't I tell mine next, if that works for everyone. So it's a story still in progress, but here we go. Eduardo is a man who lives in a world that's parallel to our world, but he's not of our world. It's a beautiful world. It's mysterious and it's magical. And I'm just going to, oh no, sorry. It was in midsummer, and Eduardo was walking through the fields by the river and just enjoying the moment, when suddenly he realized there was a woman by his side. She was old, frail and pale, almost ghost-like.
Oh, Eduardo, there you are. I want you to help me find this blue flower. It's as blue as the summer sky. It's so important that you find it because its petals hold great healing powers, which as a healer you will need. Well, grandmother, of course I'll help you. And so he began searching. Then he thought, how did she know my name and that I'm a healer? And so he looked up to ask her
and realized she had just wandered away. She was by the river, and as he watched, she disappeared into the air and was gone. Well, midsummer is a busy time, and there was a lot to do. They were harvesting, they were preserving, they were canning, they were actually preparing for winter. And he didn't give her another thought until the morning of the fall equinox, when he was standing in his vineyard and he was looking out into the deep woods, that mysterious and magical forest he lives beside. And he was admiring the fall colors, the reds and the oranges and the yellows, and how the sun made everything turn golden. And there she was again. But strangely, this time she had more color in her cheeks. She seemed a little taller, younger. Oh, Eduardo, there you are. It's important, because you didn't find the petals, the flower or the petals, that we now look for the seeds. They're tiny and they're golden. Oh, grandmother, look, everything is golden right now. And she agreed that it would be impossible to find the seeds. And she was gone. At the end of October, beginning November, that's when the calendar year begins. And like we do, they celebrate their ancestors. And Eduardo was building a beautiful altar in the great hall. And he had one more thing to add to it, to finish it off. It was a pumpkin. And so he was walking to the pumpkin patch. And when he got there, he was surprised to see 3 ravens. And Eduardo is a brave man, but these birds, these huge birds, really did intimidate him with their sort of long, black, shaggy feathers and their coal black eyes and their long, cruel beaks. And he stood and he waited and watched. And suddenly, there came the woman, this time a little taller, younger. Oh, Eduardo, there you are. Oh, I'm so busy. I have no time to chat. I'm busy making the last touches to my altar. Oh, there it is. That's the pumpkin. It's my pumpkin. It was the pumpkin that Eduardo wanted for his altar. And he was astounded to see she took a sharp knife out of her pocket and cut the stalk and picked it up and walked off with it. He was furious. He couldn't even speak. And she looked behind her at him. She looked at him behind as she was walking away and said, oh, you know, Eduardo, look, 2 are better than 1. Look, there are 2 nice pumpkins there. Why don't you harvest those? And so he did, but he was furious. And he took them back and he put them on the kitchen table and decided that he would carve them later and place them on the altar. He went out to the barn to close it up. And when he came back at the back door, there was his pumpkin, but now it was intricately carved. And so he carefully picked it up and he carried it into the house and placed it on the altar in the great hall. And he lit a candle and he placed it inside. And he watched as the candlelight threw these lace-like shadows onto the walls. It was magical. Well, he knew that on the morning of the winter solstice, he would see her. He got up really early, long before the sun would rise. It had been snowing hard for a few days, and he wanted to see if the sky was clear. And so he went outside and looked out, and it was clear. And so he thought, maybe I shall go for a walk through the snow, get outside with some fresh air. And as he returned to the kitchen, by the back door was a pair of wooden skis. And he picked them up and he put them on the kitchen table. And when he was eating his breakfast, he looked at them. He admired them. They were just expertly crafted and carved. And that's when he got his idea. that he wouldn't go for a walk, he would go and ski, and he would watch the sunrise. And so he put on the skis and started off. He knew just where he was going. But as he passed close to the deep woods, that mysterious and magical forest that he lives beside, to his amazement, the skis made a sudden turn to the left and took him down this long, winding path in and out of trees. And it was just so difficult for him to keep his balance. But finally, he came to a stop, and he was at a clearing, like in a forest meadow, and it was just full of pristine snow. And he stopped and caught his breath and listened. It was quiet and still. But then he realized, no, it wasn't quiet, it was silent. Silent and still was a deadly combination in the deep woods. And that's when he heard the rumbling. And he looked out across the meadow, and from those trees came a huge herd of wild horses. And they galloped into this deep snow, and they were kicking and they were rearing, and the sun was catching their fur, their manes and their tails. And then the horses stopped and they looked to the east, and coming out of the trees was a light. And then the horses turned and raced off. And Eduardo watched as this light got brighter and closer to him. And then suddenly, there she was. You and I might call her the goddess of the winter solstice, or the queen of winter. Eduardo just referred to her as she who cannot be named. She was big, she was commanding, she was so present. Eduardo, there you are. I knew I'd find you here. She looked taller and much, much younger. Eduardo, it's important that we find 3 seeds. Come, let's look for them. And so they went out into the meadow that the horses had churned up. And in the imprint of a horse's hoof, there were 3 seeds. Oh, Eduardo, pick them up one by one, very carefully. Put them in this pouch. There. Now, put the pouch in a safe place. Not in your coat pocket. Surely you have a pocket that's in your shirt close to your heart. That's better. After the last frost, you must plant them. And then when they bloom, I will tell you what you need to do next. Oh, grandmother, you look so... And the word he was searching for escaped him, and out came healthy. And she laughed and laughed, and this laugh came from deep inside her belly. It seemed to just well up through her huge, beautiful body and came out like a burst of sunshine. And then he smiled and said, "You are so beautiful." And she beamed at him. Oh, Eduardo, thank you. You know, it's at this time of year I look my very, very best, at midwinter, at the winter solstice. Blessings, abundance, and healing to you all. Thank you. Okay, so now we have Miss Vicky to wrap it all up.
Yay.
It's getting a little late. Is it too late? What do you think?
It's not too late.
Okay,
Not
fine.
too late. Is that right? We want to hear from Vicky, right?
Yes.
Yes. Sorry, Vicky.
Okay.
You're on.
The dawn split open a rainy, dark night and sent bolts of light out to enliven all the drops left on the branches, turning them into rhinestone glitter. And there was somebody who was hidden in the bushes, who captured it all with her heart and her eyes and her soul. The glittering, beautiful new dawn after a rainstorm. It was Edith, and the sight made her heart sing, and she held on to it into her heart and went away singing and dancing into the early dawn. Well, now Edith was the town nutcase. Every town has a nutcase, and Edith was it. And the town altogether thought, well, better Edith, who is sweet, ethereal, sympathetic, and giving, than some adolescent with an assault weapon. So Edith rocked in their mind, and they loved her for it. But Edith could not be pinned down because, you see, she had dates that she had to go to all through the day. And they were dates of love, but they were not paramours or lovers. It was with the earth and the sky and the water and the sun. So mid-morning might find her standing in the skeletal remains of an old barn, with the roof half gone and dusty, thick beams of light coming down, warming her shoulders. And she'd smell the dry hay and listen to the kerfluffle of birds up in the dark rafters. And she held on to it in her heart. Now, after lunch, on the other hand, she might have a date with that overgrown lily pond in the park, the one that nobody goes to because the path to it is windy and it's overgrown, and there are big bowers of trees over it, making it very dark. And so the water looks black and still, and the lily pads look like splattered green paint floating on the water. But if you're there at a certain time in the afternoon, you see, the sun comes through the leaves and you are suddenly standing in a glimmering cathedral, verdant green. And this particular time she stood and saw a streak of white. It was a heron by the edge of the water, immobile, watching her. Bonus, yes. Oh, she was in love again. Now you see, Edith felt that there were miracles like this going on all over the earth all the time. And she kind of felt like it was the earth asking, are you here? Did you hear that? Did you see that? Smell that. Are you here? And she thought it was extremely rude not to answer. So she made it her point to go see all the miracles that she could, but you see, she was getting frailer and older, and she couldn't possibly see them all. So it occurred to her that she could enlist the help of the villagers. So, for example, one dusk, she stood under the Maxwell's kitchen window with a handful of little pebbles that she threw up on the window. Bink, bonk, bink, bonk, bonk, bink. Well, Mrs. Maxwell, of course, was in the kitchen, and the rice was boiling over into a sticky foam, and the kids were on their phones. Get off the phones, to the table now, now, now. And she's mopping up, and she hears this bink, 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 bink at the window, and she opens up the curtains and gets a blast of orange light, like burnished copper turned neon, and tiny threads of pale blue cloud. And all she could say was, wow. Oh, wow. But she was very busy, you know, because she had to get the kids to the table, feed them. Then she had to clean up because she had phone calls to make after dinner. So curtains closed and on she went. Well, another day, for example, Mr. Schultz, who was the town grump, always went out to get his mail, stumping down the driveway, and always muttering under his breath, bunch of crap. That's all that I get in that mailbox is a bunch of crap. Garbage that I don't need and crap that I'm supposed to do something with. It's a bunch of crap all the way down the driveway. Then he opened up the mailbox and out fell an avalanche of fresh red rose petals. And the aroma of rose came to him and surrounded him and wrapped him in its arms. And suddenly he was in his wife's rose bed of years ago. Oh, she was so beautiful and they were so happy. And it was summer and her roses, the fragrance. And then that dissipated and he looked around and thought, I'm in summer now. I have another summer given to me. There's somebody mowing the lawn and I can smell the grass, and there's kids screeching as they're chasing a ball down the street. I have another summer. But he had to get the garbage and the crap out of the mailbox, so he did that and slammed it and went down his driveway, separating the garbage from the crap, from the garbage and the crap. Well, everybody knew who was behind all this stuff. It was Ida. She was a little daffy. She was just about a can short of a full six-pack. But what happened in reality was that people started to notice their own miracles. So this sullen teenager would descend from the school bus, and the freight train of her social interactions was in dead roar. So she said to me, but you know what I should have said to her? This is what I should have said. And all of a sudden, bam, it stopped. She could smell apple pressings in the orchards outside of town. And suddenly she thought to herself, oh yeah, it's autumn. And the smell of it made her eyes open, and she looked, and there was a tree with a cascade of different colored leaves, just gorgeous things cascading down like the Hallelujah chorus, bright yellows, deep burgundies, brilliant reds. And so she picked one and carried it home like a child carrying a banner, thoroughly wonder about fall. Or the church lady who was in front of the church digging up the tulip bulbs for winter and muttering to herself, oh, they all like tulips, don't they? But does anybody think to dig them up before winter? No. And she was digging and digging. And that's when she saw the very last ladybug of summer clinging to a leaf. So she put out her finger and it climbed on, lacquer red with perfect black polka dots. And then it raised its wings like a mechanical toy and buzzed off. Fly away home, she said. But sitting there, having been interrupted from her grumbling, she could smell the upturned earth. And suddenly spring came back to her, and she put the bulbs back in the bag a little more carefully. Well, as time went on, people gathered more miracles without even thinking about it, more miracles. But as time went on, of course, Edith got older and more frail, and she finally passed on. And so there came the day that the villagers all stood around her grave, wishing to send her off with heartfelt thank you for being such a sweet person. But as they were standing there looking into the hole in the ground at her little casket there, they were sort of doing the sideline look, and there was no family and there were no friends. There was nobody here other than the people of the village. And they thought, oh, that poor old thing. She didn't have a thing. She never went anywhere. She never did anything. A poor old thing. And they gazed down at her little coffin, which was bought by some far distant cousin somewhere who never showed up for the funeral. And the priest stood and lowered down the ladder of liturgy so her poor bereaved human soul could climb up out of the depth of the earth. And by the power in him, she could ascend to heaven. Her soul could be soaked up into heaven. And everybody unconsciously looked up at the sky, half expecting to see something. But Edith, you see, didn't need an invitation to discover heaven. She had been living in heaven all her life, as far as she was concerned. And so when she died, she simply went home. You're muted, Katie.
Just awesome, as always. And, you know, the miracles are going on all the time. We all know that. I mean, we often forget, but also your descriptions of everything and how you just bring it all together is just, I just love your stories in such a wonderful way to end, you know, this a special evening. Thank you so much, Vicki.
We have these powerful women from Our Lady of Guadalupe to your solstice to Edith.
Yeah, and to a Native American, to Germany, to Our Lady of Guadalupe, just great stories. And you know, I'm sorry because I realized halfway through that I hadn't spotlit you, but I didn't want to move it because I just felt like it was just going to perhaps disrupt everybody. So I apologize for that grave technical error.
Well, it was such a moving story. It was worth staying up to 12 o'clock to wait for you to tell your story.
It is.
I always look forward to your stories, you know, and that's why I like to go in the beginning, so I'm not half asleep. But boy, when you tell your story, I'm wide awake.
Thank you. How sweet.
Yeah. So thank you, everyone, so much. It's great to see you all. I noticed that we had about 15 of us here tonight. Very cool. So
Yes.
yeah, so have a good end of the year, and really looking forward to seeing you all in January 2023.
And we really look forward to seeing you, Genevieve, in good health next year, and we can't wait for your next story.
Yes.
Prayers will be with you.
Thank you so much. Blessings to everybody.